Welcome to the Strength for Life podcast, where smart strength training meets real life. We're Dr. Matt and Nicole founders of Village Fitness and Physical Therapy. Here, you'll learn what really works in the gym, at home, and for life. Today on the Strength for Life podcast, we're going to be talking about the best and the worst health trends of 2025.
Yeah, and just because something is a trend doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Some of these things we do have been habits of ours for a really long time. So I'm actually excited because I think some things that are trendy now are actually really good for us and have gained some momentum and popularity. And so more people are doing them. There's more resources for people to follow through with these health trends. And so I think it can be a really good thing.
And actually something on the bad list that we put on the bad list, and all of these are nuanced, just to be honest, it's actually something we used to do pretty consistently and now really don't do anymore. So I'm excited to talk about why in the spirit of transparency. We're going to talk about this is a habit that we did. This is something we've actually coached clients to do. And now we've kind of changed our tune on it. And there's some stuff in the good that we didn't used to do that we've also kind of changed our tune on. So you're going to learn about our journey and transformation in terms of health habits along with us today.
But first, do we want to do a recap on our High Sierra Trail backpacking trip?
Oh yeah, recap. Go ahead. Tell us, what did you think, Nicole? This was your longest backpacking trip you've ever done. So over rest week, we backpacked the High Sierra Trail, which is about 70 miles. It goes from Sequoia National Park to Mount Whitney, and then back down to Whitney Portal.
Which is the tallest mountain in the continental U.S.
Yes, it is.
At 14,505 feet.
Those 5 feet are important.
They're very important.
So we started rest week as our week that we're closed. We have the week off. Our clients have the week off. And so Nicole and I left Sunday morning with Susan, who is one of our awesome team members out at Village San Marino. And she was at our house at 4 a.m., picked us up. She was actually a few minutes early.
Like always. I love it.
And she drove us up to Sequoia. We picked up our permit, drove us to the trailhead, dropped us off, and Nicole and I spent 4 days in the wilderness, just the two of us. We did 15 miles the first day, 20 miles the second day, 20 miles the third day, and then about 16, 17
Yeah,
that
somewhere
last
around
day.
there. Mm-hmm.
We slept in hammocks every night,
Which
separate
is
hammocks.
Awesome.
Yeah, hammocks are so comfortable. If you want to get into backpacking, I think most people will do a tent because it's kind of normal.
Familiar.
Mm-hmm. Hammocks are very comfortable. The downside is they probably weigh a little bit more than an ultralight backpacking tent would, or that setup, maybe. And they also can be a little bit colder. So if it's super cold where you're going, you need the right under quilt, which is the sleeping bag that goes under your hammock, and top quilt, which is the one that goes over.
Yeah, I loved it. It's like you sleep in like a little cocoon every night. It's very, very nice and luxurious, especially compared to sleeping on the hard ground.
That's true. It is way more comfortable.
Yeah.
But I was really proud of you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Really proud of you.
It was challenging. Yeah, it's funny because he has done way more backpacking than I have. And I used to like make fun of him and really the guys that he's done like the John Muir Trail with. And you guys did this trail last year, you, Chuck, Eric, and Jacob. And I was like, why are you so obsessed with ultralight backpacking stuff? Mm-hmm. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you are researching and getting way too much gear and spending way too much time. And then I said on this trip, like, I'm so grateful that you spent all that time because this is way easier than it would have been if we had just like normal or heavy gear. Because my backpack only weighed like 16 pounds with food in it and yours was like 20. Mm-hmm. So that makes a big difference when you're hiking 70 miles. And it's like crazy. A lot of people we saw had like probably 50, 60, 70
at least
pounds.
twice what we had.
Yeah, backpacks. So I'm very grateful. My back and shoulders are grateful for that as well. So yeah.
They should be.
Yeah, it was, I mean, the experience for me was, I would say, one of the most like incredibly relaxing, but also, you know, it's like that, like you're in nature and just totally present. And then obviously you're doing something really strenuous and hard. And so, I like both of those things. And so I think just being really present, like you're not, you know, on your phone, you're not distracted with anything. You're just focused on walking every day. And we had great conversation, listened to some awesome podcasts.
And we
had a great time.
came upon a hot spring about halfway through, so our second night of the trip, second of 3 nights. And there's this little concrete tub that someone has built in the ground. I think the Forest Service built it. And they connected the hot spring via pipe to this tub. And you unplug the inlet. If you plug the outlet, it fills up with hot water. It's probably like 105, 106 degrees.
Yeah,
it's
hot.
really hot.
Very hot.
But it's just not hot enough to be where it burns you. It's like right on the edge of that, but you get in and you're like, whew. So we went back and forth between that hot tub and the Kern River, which flows down below. It was a nice little hot, cold, like contrast therapy session.
Yeah. I think my feet were very happy after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last day or the third day, we hiked basically as far as we could to where the tree line was below Mount Whitney. So we were kind of coming up the backside of Mount Whitney. We put our hammocks in basically the highest trees that we could, which was right below a mountain lake that I really wanted to see, but we didn't get to see because we only saw it from the top of Mount Whitney. So we camped there. We went to bed at like 6:30, woke up at 2 a.m.
Yep.
and hiked in the dark, like rocky,
With headlamps.
With headlamps, yes.
Yeah.
Dark, rocky, just steep mountain. And we did that for a couple hours. We unpacked and repacked the backpacks and we only had to take one to the top once we kind of got to the like crossroads. Then we spent the last 2 miles kind of going a little bit slower, and we made it just a couple minutes before the sun rose at the top of Mount Whitney around like 6:15 a.m. And it was the most beautiful sunrise I've ever seen, but very cold.
Pretty cool. Super cold.
Very cold.
And I think trips like this are really, to me, yes, they're great time together. It's so cool to be in nature, to see all the beauty, but it's also an opportunity to flex our muscle of resilience and grit. And you come back from a trip like that and everything in life just feels easier. It's like parenting feels easier. Now we're back into running a business this week. That feels easier. Workouts feel easier because you've just done something so tough and uncomfortable that it creates this sense of appreciation for all of the things you have in life. And I love having that at least a couple times a year where I'm like, okay, I'm going to get into the wilderness. I'm going to do something tough and uncomfortable. And then you have this reward of all the beauty and the camaraderie that comes along with doing it with other people. But you get this added benefit that just carries with you for a long time.
Yeah, totally. And I actually was surprised. I thought like my feet and my knees would like be a little more sore than they were. But I would say like after a day of being back home, I felt pretty recovered. I was definitely more tired.
Nice.
I think we both have slept a little bit more.
Yeah, we have slept a little bit more
the last couple of days. But I would say overall, I was like, wow, I'm grateful that we did the steps challenge and that I got 1 million steps in July, because I think that really helped prepare my feet for an absurd amount of walking every day.
It's a shame your team lost, though.
I know, it really is. It really is.
Yeah.
How does it feel knowing you only got 800 something thousand steps and I got 1 million?
I haven't thought about it because my team won. My team San Marino staff.
They did.
The San Marino staff won the steps challenge. The Glendora clients won the steps challenge.
Yeah, the Glendora clients were awesome.
Yeah.
They were. The Glendora staff, I'm not going to lie, a little disappointed. Some of you guys gave up week 3. Sad. It's not over until it's over.
Yeah, let me tell you, Glendora staff, you do not want Nicole disappointed in you.
I might jump ship
Trust
next
me,
year.
as the person who has disappointed her the most in the last 13 years, it's not a good position to be in.
No.
All right, let's get into these health trends. So we're going to start off with the 5 worst health trends of 2025. And I'm going to start off with my personal favorite, juice cleanses and diets. And we're actually going to talk about some potential good things that come from these trends because, like I said, there's no black and white when it comes to health and fitness. There's usually a whole lot of gray, and there's things that are better than others. And so
there can also be things that are really good about each of these things, like, you know, for a lot of people, like having, say, you know, juice, like having a cold pressed juice where there's lots of veggies and vitamins and minerals that are in there. Like for a lot of people, if that's added into other things they're doing and it just like gives them an extra boost, or it has like ginger in it, things like that can help with their immunity, like that can be good. But I think sometimes when things are taken like to the extreme.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is all you should eat, or aka drink in this case, then, you know, that's where people really get into trouble, because they're like, I'm going to take this really good thing and just say like, this is all you need. And it's like, no, that's not really true. You actually need a lot of other things to be healthy.
Totally. And I think somebody who is doing a juice cleanse, this could be the thing that helps them to jumpstart the weight loss process. And what I've learned in helping people to get healthy over the last couple decades is that people need to see results fairly quickly to stick with it. Like, folks are typically not okay with, hey, you're going to lose a pound a week for the next 2 months. It's like, no, they want to see that they've lost 5 pounds in the first week. And if you're doing a more traditional, like slight caloric restriction, higher protein diet, lower carbs, that's just not going to happen.
No. We all want the immediate gratification. And so unfortunately, I think that's where a lot of the health trends come in, is it like it can be really good in the short term, but when you just have that juice cleanse and you don't think about all the other things, like when you lose weight really quickly, often you lose fat and muscle, especially if you're not strength training. And so there can be a lot of negative components to doing something like a juice cleanse. So like Matt said, one of the potential goods is that it can really jumpstart, weight loss. You can probably get more nutrients than just the standard American diet. The standard American diet is, highly processed carbohydrates for the most part, and like poorly sourced animal products. So if you are able to, have a really high quality cold pressed juice that was made from good ingredients, like you probably are going to get some vitamins and minerals from that. And it's closer to real food than some processed foods that come in like a box or a bag that have sat at the grocery store for weeks, months, years.
Yeah. Now, the main reasons that people do a juice cleanse, at least as far as I've heard, are 1, to lose weight, and 2, to flush toxins. And let's just touch on each of those. So from a weight loss standpoint, yes, you will lose weight. But will it stay off long term? The research says no. My practical experience with folks says also emphatically no. The weight comes back on, and sometimes even more than the original, because when you drastically reduce calories and go on an ultra low calorie diet, your metabolism goes down. Our bodies are hardwired with an innate metabolism barometer.
And like a set point homeostasis. Like we really like to stay even.
Yes. So if your body senses, oh my gosh, I've been used to getting 3,000 calories a day and now I'm getting 500, there must be a famine. We better reduce the amount of energy expenditure to balance things out. And so, folks that go on, let's say like The Biggest Loser, they'll measure their metabolisms before and after the show, and they'll have a significant decrease in their resting metabolic rate, like 600 to 800 less calories burned per day, way in excess of how much weight that they've lost in less calories burned. And even though people in The Biggest Loser and people on juice cleanses will gain the weight back and then some, their metabolisms stay decreased. And so this is where people get into this like vicious yo-yo dieting cycle. And you'll hear people say things like, I'm eating next to nothing and I'm still not losing weight, or I still can't keep the weight off. I can't prevent myself from gaining weight. It's probably because their metabolism has slowed down.
And I always think when you think about like nutrition and food, like there can be good to doing something like Matt said about jump starting, but a lot of times like if it's not close enough to something that you can sustain forever for the rest of your life, like it's just not going to be a good fit. And we've always said that from the beginning, like when we started Village, like eat real food. Like supplements can be good, but and things that are like, help you just temporarily, but often they're so extreme that then people go, it's kind of the same thing as like people that do, like the carnivore, or like some really, really intense, like all they eat is meat, or like all they have is juice. And it's like all those things, it's like, are you going to be able to do this for the rest of your life? If you can honestly say yes, maybe go for it. But I think most people, it's like they can't sustain that. And so they're just going to be frustrated because they're going to lose the weight and then they're just going to gain it back. Yeah. And sometimes more.
Yep. There was a large-scale meta-analysis that was done, and their summary was the following. They said juicing or detoxification diets tend to work because they lead to extremely low caloric intake for short periods of time. However, they tend to lead to weight gain once a normal diet is resumed. So just like we're saying, people gain the weight back.
Yep. So the second not so great health trend would be like a boot camp style or like Orange Theory, or just like really kind of like medium to high intensity training. And the reason is because, first let's talk about some of the good things, and then we can talk about maybe why it's not so good, or why it wouldn't be good for everyone.
Yeah. I think any sort of exercise is going to be better than no exercise when it comes to the cardiovascular and health benefits that you're going to get, the mental clarity benefits that you're going to get. So for the right person, really for any person, doing something is going to be better than nothing. Like I would much rather have somebody, even an older person, go and do an Orange Theory or a super high intensity boot camp as opposed to doing nothing at all.
Correct. Yeah.
It's also, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, if you are, it can be a really good add-on would be one of my things that I would say, is because, if you're doing a lot of low level movement and what we'll talk about later, like walking, rucking, biking, swimming, you're also strength training 3 days a week, like adding in something like this 1 to 2 days a week, especially if you are a more experienced weightlifter, or you've been doing exercise for a long time, like it's probably could be a good thing for you. And it will help you stay fitter, be a little bit more robust in your aerobic capacity. However, most of our clients and the people that we interact with, like they're not doing strength training.
Right.
They're not doing like enough low
our
level
clients
movements.
are.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
doing
totally.
strength training.
But like people that have, maybe before they start with us, like they're not doing strength training. They're not doing enough just low level movement throughout the day. And then they jump into something like this, which leads us into maybe one of the things that is bad about this, and they end up injuring themselves because it's too much too soon for their whole entire body.
The other problem with workouts like this, whether it be boot camp or Orange, let's talk about boot camp. So one of the examples that I love to use with people is, when you go to boot camp, you're going to show up and they're going to say, hey, today we're doing 200 burpees because it's Wednesday. Not necessarily because you've slowly and progressively worked your way up on burpees and demonstrated a proficiency with your form and shown that your body can handle and recover from that stress stimulus. It's like, no, we're dosing this randomly. And I think the older you get, the more you need to look at exercise as an intervention, almost like a medical intervention. It's like, I need to manage my dosage of this as a medicine. That's the word I was looking for, as a medicine, an exercise medicine. I need to manage the dosage of this exercise medicine that I am applying to my body. And you wouldn't just all of a sudden go from 0 milligrams of ibuprofen to 5,000 milligrams of ibuprofen. That would lead to potentially overdosing on that drug. And I think the same thing kind of happens with this exercise, especially when you talk about a boot camp or an Orange Theory. So you can do a one-time OD, or you can do a chronic overdose, which is, I think, what happens when people start to get into the really high heart rate for long periods of time training. So you'll see people do Orange Theory 5 days a week. It's like, I really don't think people should be doing that kind of training that often.
Yeah, so you're not going to get the same like muscle growth as you would, doing progressive heavy strength training, and you also won't you're also just more likely to get injured, which we touched on. And I experienced this when I taught women's boot camp for a couple years. I just saw women over and over again. It was so sad. It would be like they're working so hard 5 days a week, crushing themselves, and then they're frustrated because they get an injury and they can't do anything. And then like all the progress they've, made is just gone.
Yeah.
And then they're discouraged and they just stop working out at all, which is like the worst thing that they could do. Versus like if they had started out and slowly built up and maybe done it a couple of days a week and like let their body adapt. But instead it was just like all out. You gave 110% every single workout. And that was the mentality. It was like, we will crush you.
Yep.
You can handle this. And turns out they couldn't. And turns out no one can.
Yeah. So Nicole and I have done a lot of different boot campy or cardio fitness type things over the years. In fact, last year, 2024, we did Barry's boot camp every Monday for the entire year. We probably went to 45 Barry's classes. And, we're in our mid-30s, and those were pretty challenging workouts that took a considerable amount of time to recover from. But we had a whole week in between. And it was laid on top of a really big foundation of low level movement. We do lots of walking and progressive strength training. Like we were both strength training 3 to 4 days a week for the entire year. And I think when you have that base, your body, and if you're sleeping and recovering well, which we covered in our last episode, or in a couple episodes back, you'll have a lot better ability to handle the stress of a workout like that.
Yeah. I did notice though, like there was a couple of things, like if we did a lot of upper body, like high volume, lighter weight things at Barry's, and like my overhead press just like completely plateaued because I think I was just like so fatigued from the high volume. So there definitely were things that I liked about it. I did like that. I think the benefit of some of these, classes or boot camps too can be that it does push you more than if you're on your own. Like if I work out on my own, I most of the time will like work out at, like a 6 or 7. If I have somebody with me, I'll work way harder and push myself a little bit more because I have that competitive drive. And so this was a really good push for me. But again, it was only once a week. And I made sure that I was sleeping well, recovering well. And even then, I don't know if I would recommend it for everyone. So it was fun though.
Now we're training for something very cardio heavy, which is high rocks. And I'll just be honest with you, when we do the high rocks race, we're probably going to be in zone 4 to zone 5, between 80 and 100% of our max heart rate for an hour to an hour and a half. Hopefully not more than an hour and a half.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And to train for that, we need to be in that state. But Nicole and I we've kind of reorganized our training for the next 10 weeks, 11 weeks for high rocks. And then we plan to do something different.
Like this is not going to be our forever training every day. Like I think I would not enjoy it nearly as much.
Well, I think you'd be walking a very fine line for injury. And we're already, as we have set high rocks as a goal, we've already had to be a lot more intentional with our training and recovery and really think about, okay, how do we put our bodies in a position to handle this volume of stress and training and still be able to, feel good.
Yeah. And I don't think that would be sustainable year round. I mean, not with our current life stage.
Nope.
So.
All right. Number 3. Now, this is one that we have coached people to do. We've done workshops on this thing, and now it's ended up in our pad health trends. And really, the way that this goes bad is when it's like chronic and overly obsessive. And that's fasting and time-restricted eating, especially for the aging adult, especially for postmenopausal women.
Yes.
So we've done fasting, both of us. In fact, I think in 2021, I did an entire year, 3 days a week, I would eat 1 meal a day. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I wouldn't eat until dinner. I would have, coffee, I'd have some bone broth at lunch, and then I would eat dinner. And I lost like 10 pounds. But then I just kind of plateaued, and even though I was still doing it, I was slowly gaining back body fat. And so it worked for a long time, and then it just didn't work anymore. That was kind of my experience with it. And I didn't have great energy on the days that I would fast. Like I felt fine. I got used to it, to where I wasn't super hungry all day. I felt like I could think pretty clearly, but as far as my workouts would go, like I just didn't have great energy to do a super high intensity workout on a fasting day. And at the end of the day, when I shifted gears and wanted to start to build some muscle, and I knew that was no longer going to be a great solution for building muscle. And over the years, we've begun to realize how important muscle is for our clients because of its links with longevity, with mobility, with their ability to function and stay independent long term. And not eating for an entire day will certainly not do good things for your muscle mass.
Correct. Yeah. And I think the idea behind, fasting or intermittent fasting is that, people eat way too much of the day now. So instead of, it used to be that people ate 12 hours a day. Now they eat 16 hours a day. Like they start, eating first thing in the morning. They have usually something like, instead of eating, they actually have like a sugar laden beverage. Then they go into, breakfast, which is usually high in carbohydrates. They have a snack, they have lunch, they have more snacks. That's, things around the office throughout the day. Then they go into dinner, they eat dinner, and then later in the evening, they snack, they have ice cream, they have, chips in front of the TV. So, the eating window for the average American is too long. And so I think the pendulum swung so far the other way where it was like, oh, only eat 4 hours a day or 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day. And I think there's a happy medium where you can still really get a lot of protein and high quality nutrients into your body so that you feel really good throughout the day without the extreme intermittent fasting. So like I would say we get up in the morning and like we have protein, within the first hour or two of waking up, but then we're done eating and we have at least 12 hours before we eat breakfast. Yeah, eat again, 12 to 14 hours. And so I think it's just being aware of that, not allowing eating to squish into the time that you should be really sleeping and winding down, but giving your body enough time. Like you eat dinner and then your body has enough time to digest. You get to go for a walk after dinner. Then you start the next day, having 12 hours before since you've eaten your last meal.
Yeah. And so the process of building muscle requires an increase in something called muscle protein synthesis, which is a process that turns on within our bodies to build muscle. Mm-hmm. And there's two main things that turn that on. One is eating protein and the other is strength training. Now, the older we get, the less turned on muscle protein synthesis becomes with either of those things, whether that be protein or strength training. Thus, as we age, we actually need more frequent stimulation of muscle protein synthesis. So we need to be eating protein more frequently, and we need to be strength training actually more frequently as we get older. So if you're not eating 2 meals out of the day, you have zero muscle protein synthesis from your food anyways. And one of the best things you can do is just to make sure you get 30 grams of protein at every single meal. Now, you can make up for that by having a ton of protein later in the day, like at your last meal, but that's tough. And it's tough for your body to digest all that protein all at once.
And people often get to the point where they're like, I'm just forcing food down and I'm like really uncomfortable eating the amount of food that I'm eating. Like it's not pleasant for anyone.
No. So I would recommend, if you're trying to build muscle, which I think you are if you're listening to this podcast, or at least wanting to maintain your muscle, that you have 30 grams of protein spread throughout the day, 3 days a week. And if you are going to use fasting, use it as a tool to build discipline. Maybe it's a spiritual discipline for you, or it's something that you do temporarily to burn body fat. Research does show that fasting does fairly well in terms of helping people lose weight without lowering their resting metabolism, at least in the short term. My personal experience was that over a year, it kind of stopped. And I think my metabolism plateaued or started to go down after that time. But the research that's like 8 to 12 weeks has not shown any decreases in metabolism with a shorter term intermittent fasting protocol.
And I think it's always good to be metabolically flexible. Like if you are reliant so much on carbohydrates and glucose for fuel that, you can't go a couple hours without eating, like that means that you're not able to tap into your fat stores to burn fat for fuel. And so that's one of the benefits of intermittent fasting is that you start to be able to actually tap into your fat stores to use that energy. But I think that you can accomplish a lot of that by, not eating for the 12 to 14 hours per day.
Yeah.
That is, I think, just as effective. To add on to that too as well, like I think if you were to do intermittent fasting and you did it every once in a while and it's like, hey, I'm going to do an 18-hour fast for this day, or I'm going to do a 24-hour fast like once a month. I think some of those things of just like doing something really challenging, maybe on a day when you're not going to be training, that can have a lot of benefit just to kind of like so that your body just gets used to that and it's like, oh, this is something different. But I think the like sustained daily, weekly, monthly intermittent fasting for people is just like their body kind of adapts to it and then it becomes less effective.
Definitely. Let's get to number 4.
Great.
So yoga and Pilates as your sole modality for training. So we have a lot of, especially women in their 50s, 60s that only do yoga and Pilates. And these are people that typically will do that because they want to be long and lean, as they say. And that's what they'll tell you. They'll tell you if you want long, lean muscles, then you have to do one of those 2 modalities. Yep. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. There's no way to lengthen one's muscles. They will just shrink and be smaller.
Yeah.
Which, if that's what you're after, if that's what's most important to you is to have as small of a amount of muscle mass as possible, be our guest. But most people listening to this podcast want to have muscle. And actually, what we're not after here with building muscle is looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, a bodybuilder, or a female CrossFitter. Those people train many hours every single day for years. Many of them are on performance-enhancing drugs. They're often very young. to
And they are eating a lot.
eating a ton to get physiques that look like that. And frankly, it's kind of insulting to say, hey, you think you're just going to lift weights a couple times and then wake up and look like that. There's a great Trey Kennedy skit. He's a comedian where he's trying to convince his wife, and he's playing both characters, the husband and the wife. And he's trying to convince his wife to lift weights with him. And she says she doesn't want to get too bulky. And then she lifts one weight, and all of a sudden, boom, she's wearing a muscle suit. And she's like, babe, look.
So some of the good to...
We should link that. Jamila, can we link that in the show notes?
It's so good.
It's so good.
So yoga and Pilates, like Matt said, they're not bad in and of themselves. I think they can also be a really good, just like a Orange Theory or a Barry's Boot Camp could be a really good complement depending on what your goals are. You get low level movement, you get some mobility work in, some core work in, but that it's just not enough to sustain, increase muscle mass, increase bone density as you age. My favorite is, I think of all the yoga, is like the aerial yoga. I'm sure a lot of you have seen those videos of like the trends that women do. And it's like these women like floating on silk and like how, and I'm sure there can be some good in that, but I think it misses. It's like we're always looking for like that shiny object and the thing that's going to be like the magic pill. And I think time and time again, we just see that it's like the hard work of being in the gym, eating clean, and having a lot of low level movement that drives the needle forward. But nobody wants to be told that. They want the thing that looks fun and it's easy and like it doesn't stress me too much. And I think, and I feel great after. And it's like, I'm sure there's some benefit to that. But if that's the only thing that you're doing for exercise, again, something is better than nothing. Like we'll always say that. We're never going to tell somebody, don't exercise. Like we always, like any type of movement is better than none.
Yep.
However,
one of the deceptive things about yoga is, and stretching in general, especially for people in pain, is that it feels good in the moment when they stretch. And that's because stretching stimulates something called Golgi tendon organs, which allows muscles to release. And then what often happens is that they tighten back up, sometimes even tighter, in response to that stretching in the long term. So people will be in even more pain after the next day, after they do a bunch of yoga or stretching. The other thing I've noticed with people that are heavy yoga folks, I worked with a yoga professor or teacher one time for physical therapy for her shoulder, and she was so overly flexible that she had actually compromised the structural integrity of her joints. She had hip issues, and she had shoulder issues, and she had knee issues and ankle issues, all because she was constantly overstretching herself to the end of her range of motion. And the difference between stretching like yoga and strength training is that with strength training, you're going through a full range of motion, hopefully, but you're getting strong through that entire range of motion. So what I like to say is, not only are you able to access your full range of motion, but you own it. You own the range of motion at every single degree of the motion.
Yeah, love it.
And then number 5, the fifth, the final health trend to avoid is relying too heavily on biohacks and ignoring the basics.
Yeah, so biohacks were created to maximize.
What is a biohack?
Maybe you should explain that.
Okay. Well, a biohack is a habit or practice that you implement into your life to hack your physiology and to improve your health, typically. So something like
a hyperbaric chamber,
red light therapy. I'd probably put in there sauna, cold plunge. Think maybe things like peptides could be in the biohack space. Supplements could be in there. You could pretty much put anything in there. Strength training could be a biohack, if you will.
I don't think strength training is.
Well, anything could be a biohack.
It's true. But I think it's like kind of all of those little things that can maximize your recovery, can give you that like 1 to 2% increase in performance. And in my mind, the way I've always viewed biohacks is like it's laid on a really solid foundation that's built on, just the basics of like eating real food, strength training, heavy progressive strength training, a lot of low level movement, and like managing your stress and sleep. And then there's things that you can do to improve that. And so, you can do things like, cold tart cherry juice before bed to help you sleep more, or take magnesium. So it's like all those things where it's like, these things are basic and fundamental. Like we need to sleep, we need to eat well, We need to, move our bodies and be strong. And then these things are all just going to help make those, those improvements that maybe like you'll get 1 to 2% better, maybe sometimes 5%, but it's not going to be like if you only drank cold tart cherry juice, and that was the only thing you did for your health.
Juice cleanse.
Yeah, juice cleanse. Like it's just not enough. You have to have the foundation first, and then you add these things on top.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that people latch onto them is because it's so much easier to do the thing. Like it's so much easier to just take a shot of cherry juice before bed than it is, to actually turn your phone off and go to sleep for a full 8 hours and then wake up and do strength training and walking and whatever it is. So
yes. So I would say also, yes, and the 80-20 rule really applies here. So 80% of the results that you're going to get in health and fitness are going to come from the most basic 20% of the interventions. And so I would put in these categories sleep. Get 7 to 8 hours plus of sleep per night. Low level movement. Make sure you're walking a lot and just moving your body all throughout the day. I think 10,000 steps minimum is a good jumping off point for most people. Maybe a little bit less if you're older, more if you're younger.
I mean, I think for steps, as long as they're like working to improve, like if someone's doing 1,000 steps a day, 10,000 is a lot. And if you jump too quickly, like you could, overdo it. But I would say like set a goal to improve by 1,000 steps a day each week. And then, I mean, I think really the minimum for like on the research shows is 8,000.
Yeah.
However, 10,000 it's a nice number.
It's a nice number.
It's a nice number. Yeah.
So that's number 2, 3. I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
The 80-20.
Well, I know that. Yeah. Strength training. Also 3 days a week, heavy progressive strength training. And then the fourth one is eating a whole food diet, meaning you're eating real food that comes from something. So vegetables, fruits, meat, nuts, seeds, dairy, and other animal products, fermented foods, things like that. If you bias your diet towards that, if you do the movement habits, if you sleep 7 to 8 hours, that's really the 80%. That's the 20% of intervention that's going to get you 80% of the results. And if you're not doing those things, I just wouldn't worry about the rest. Unless there's something where it's like, hey, I can't sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. I'm trying my best, but because of life, I just can't do that. Whether it's your schedule or you're a shift worker or something like that. You got a baby. Then it's like, okay, I've at least checked that box to the best of my ability. Now I'm going to go focus on this other thing, this next thing, which is the biohacks. And so all those things we listed off, intermittent fasting, red light therapy, sauna, cold plunge, supplements, peptides, coffee enemas.
I don't know if I'll ever try that one.
Me and my friends, this is probably too much information. We joke about anal sunbathing.
TMI.
TMI?
TMI. Let's move on.
Okay. It's a biohack. It's a butt.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man.
Wow.
All right. We've cracked Jamila up. Goal for the day is accomplished.
Now on to our awesome.
We all have a little 12-year-old boy inside of us.
Not all of us.
Who thinks
you.
that you laughed.
I did.
You laughed.
Okay, so now on to our awesome health trends or habits, I would say. Things that we've done for a
You
long
already
time.
know what number one is. Come on. It's heavy progressive strength training, 3 days
Ding,
per
ding,
week.
ding, ding, ding.
Bring, bring, bring. So no matter your age, research shows that lifting heavy weights will help you to build muscle and strength. And the stronger you are, the longer you're going to live. The more muscle you have, the longer you're going to live. So people looked, a research study in Chile looked at folks with an average age of 74, and they measured how much fat-free mass they have or muscle they have in their limbs. And they split them up into quartiles. So the highest quartile, second quartile, third quartile, the lowest quartile. What they found was that those in the lowest quartile, a full 50% of them were dead in the next 10 years. Contrasted with those in the highest quartile, only 20% were dead 10 years later. So having the most muscle cuts your chances or risk of dying in half, especially as you're older. And then if you look at strength, there's the Hallmark grip strength study. Every 11-pound increase in just grip strength decreases your chances of dying from all causes by 16%. So muscle and strength, very important for longevity. Also, people in the highest quartile of muscle mass were 6 times more likely to report a higher quality of life than those in the lowest quartile. And that's because the more muscle you have, the more you can do the things that you want to do in life. And so it's never too late to build muscle and build strength. There's research studies on 80-year-olds, on 90-year-olds. The Fiatarone et al. Study looked at nonagenarians, people in their 90s, and they took them through an 8-week progressive resistance training program, meaning they progressively increased the amount of resistance the people were using for their strength training. And they found that they were able to increase their muscle mass and their strength significantly, even in their 90s. So if they can do it, you can do it too. And it'll help you with your longevity. It'll help you with your quality of life. It'll help with your metabolism, your body composition. There's just no end to the benefits. Now, the training needs to be progressive, meaning you slowly and steadily increase the resistance placed on your body. And it needs to be done with exercises that are similar to things you're actually going to be doing in real life. So that's why we do deadlifts, squats, and overhead presses, because those are real movements that are functional, meaning they're similar and have carryover to real life things like picking grandkids up off the ground, tossing them into the air when you're playing with them, putting a heavy suitcase in the overhead bin.
Getting waters at Costco.
Getting waters at Costco.
Turns out it's harder than it looks.
Harder than it looks. Lifting a heavy bag of soil because your wife wants to re-soil the garden multiple times a year, it feels like.
Just once or twice.
Yeah, twice is multiple.
I lift my own bags of soil.
You do, because you deadlift.
So funny.
Squats, being able to get down on the ground and back up, or the toilet and back up.
Yeah, it's always so interesting to me that
Tell the Jeep story. Tell the Jeep story.
Oh, yeah.
Don't say who it was.
I won't. So first, people come to us and they'll say things like, my doctor told me I can never squat again. And I try not to chuckle, because if you think about it, it's like, that's just impossible unless you never, flex your hip and your knee. Like, you're going to have to get up and down out of a chair. You're going to have to get in and out of a car, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Like, you're going to have to get up and down off the ground. Like, you have to squat. So why would you stop practicing that? It just doesn't make sense. But I think people just, they don't know, and they think of squats as like really heavy back squats, and realizing like progressive, strength training can start with body weight squats to the box, where you literally just work on your mobility. Like, you're not adding weight.
Assisted squats, like holding onto a TRX or holding onto a door post, door frame. Like, you don't even need to use your entire body weight to start the progression.
Yep.
Jeep story.
So I was driving down the street the other day, and I saw this lady. I had slowed down. It was a narrow street, and my daughter and I are in the car, and she says like, "Oh, what's going on with that lady?" And I said, "Oh, that's really sad. She tried like 3 or 4 times to just get herself into the Jeep, her own Jeep. She was with her mother, who looked like she was in her 90s, and she was probably in her 60s, somewhere around there. And she didn't have enough strength to get herself in her Jeep. She almost fell out of her Jeep.
Yeah.
And she was like trying with all of, you could just tell it was just like all of her strength she was using to try to like get herself into her Jeep. And granted, it's higher than some cars, but it was just like, I told her, I said, I looked at her, I said, Chloe, and that's why we strength train for our entire life.
100%. And here's the deal. We don't know this lady's story.
We don't.
She very well could have had an injury or have some sort of health condition or a unique circumstance. However, there are so many people out there that are weak because they don't do something about it. And if you're in a position where you have the opportunity to change your strength and to do something about it, do it. You will not regret it. Your life will be so much better because of it. And I think a lot of the reason that people fall when they lose their balance is less because they have bad balance and more because they have bad strength. Like this lady getting into the Jeep, or the person going up and down the stairs. It's like they don't have enough strength to confidently walk up and down the stairs, or to confidently lift their leg just to get to the next step. And that's often why people fall. One of the most common, or the most common place people fall, what do you think?
I'm going to guess the bathtub or the shower.
The stairs.
Oh, the stairs. Okay.
Do you think it's going up or going down? Down, because it's eccentric, meaning muscle lengthening as you're going down the stairs, which is much more difficult to control than the concentric, or the going up. And so if you don't have the strength to lower yourself down, that's why we do the V step at Village, which is basically like going downstairs, because that is the number one place people fall. And we want to combat that, get ahead of it. And the V-Step also builds incredible knee strength and resilience and beautiful quads. So other reasons to do the V-Step are many, but preventing falls is another one. All right.
Let's move on to our next one.
Yeah, get off the resistance training high horse.
We could talk about that for a whole episode.
We did.
So protein. Very
protons,
very
as Hannah calls
trendy.
them.
Yeah.
Hannah calls them protons. She's our fitness manager in Glendora, and she's training for High Rocks with us.
She is.
Shout out to Hannah. She listens to our podcast.
I love it. She also likes to send me videos of older people doing high rocks.
Because you're old, Nicole.
She says if they can do it, you can do it too. Say thanks, Anna. They're like 40 years older than me. I don't know if you know how old I am, but I'm not there yet.
Getting close.
But it is encouraging. It's encouraging. It's like if somebody in their 70s and 80s can do it, I can do it in my 30s.
Jamila says we're old too.
Yeah, she does. Yeah. We're out of the loop. Anyways, protein.
So why protein? So we talked a little bit earlier about muscle protein synthesis and how important that is for the aging body, because the aging body actually needs it more frequently. So when you strength train or when you eat protein and you're younger, muscle protein synthesis will stay elevated for a long time. And frankly, strength training is a better stimulator of muscle protein synthesis than just eating protein. However, all things being equal, people that eat protein, even without exercise, people that eat high protein diets will build and maintain muscle mass. So let that sink in. Even without exercise, people that eat high protein diets will build or maintain muscle.
Love it. I mean, I feel like that's good enough. It helps to, also support recovery. And it can just, in general, it will make you also fuller longer. That would be another thing that I would say is like if you eat a large steak versus say a bread or a big
same amount of calories,
bowl of rice, same amount of calories. Like if you eat or say a bowl of cereal or something like that, you will be hungry an hour later. If you eat the same amount,
cereal,
with the cereal or the rice or something like highly processed carbohydrate. You have steak, you have a huge steak, like you're not going to be hungry for hours. And so I think it's very satiating. It also just really helps your body it takes a lot longer and it takes more energy to actually process the protein than it does carbohydrate and fat. I think another thing to note too
let's talk about that. So protein has a higher, what's called thermic effect of food, or TEF. TEF?
Thermic effect of feeding.
Thermic effect of food.
Oh, okay.
I think. What could be feeding? I don't know.
You're probably right.
And protein is more difficult for our body to digest. And by difficult, it just means it takes more energy to digest. So when you eat a high protein meal, you burn more calories in the actual digestion than if it was just a high carb meal, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there's that. It's also, like you said, very satiating, meaning it fills you up and makes you not hungry.
Correct.
And research shows that consuming a high protein diet can lower waist circumference. It can actually decrease body weight. And super interestingly, there was a study where they had younger adults eat a high protein diet or eat an ultra processed food diet. And they found that those who had higher protein and lower carbs with their ultra processed foods actually lost more weight than those who just ate the higher carb. Even though they were all eating ultra processed foods, people with more protein lost more weight than people eating more carbs, just all other things being equal. So
all right. Next up, creatine.
Favorite topic. Yes. So trendy.
Very trendy. I love it. It's one of those things again where it's like it's been around for a long time. It's always been kind of associated with gym bros and their creatine supplementation. Turns out it's for everyone. It's good for everyone, which I love. So we take 5 grams of creatine every day, usually with milk and some protein powder, typically around the time like before or after we work out. It's just an easy way to get it in. Some people drink it with water. Some people, just take it dry, straight up.
Dr. Justin.
Oh, can't do it. Tried it. It's horrible. Anyways, so what is creatine? Why don't you get into that?
Well, creatine is a combination of natural amino acids that are found in foods like beef and fish. And it's actually a natural compound that our body makes. And we need to get it from food. So The main reason that we want to supplement with creatine is because we just don't get enough of it to really maximize the benefits from it.
Yeah. And also women usually have about 20 to 30% less creatine than men, just in general, what we store. And this also starts to decline with age. So it's really important for women, maybe more important for women to take creatine than men.
Yep.
But both should take it.
So to get the same amount of creatine as you would in a single scoop, a 5-gram scoop, you would need
3 pounds.
3 pounds of beef.
That's a lot.
Which is a lot of beef, especially considering, a normal burger is like a 1/4 pound. So like 1/12 of that. So creatine fuels your muscles in the first, 0 to 10 or so seconds of exercise. So this is like picking up a grandkid. This is going down the stairs. This is lifting something heavy. And this is just building muscle too. Creatine will help to pull water into your cells and help your muscles to function better, help them to recycle energy faster so that you can output more sooner.
Yep.
And so here's what the research says. There was a meta-analysis of 19 randomized control trials with 721 older adults, so ages like 50 to 70. They did creatine and did resistance training, and it led to them gaining 3 pounds more lean mass plus significantly greater strength in both the upper and the lower body compared to just training alone. So training plus creatine leads to more muscle gain and more strength. Now, what's really interesting is that the benefits extend beyond just muscle. There's some really unique research coming out to show that creatine may help in the prevention of Alzheimer's disease and helping to keep our brains healthy and functioning at a high level. And some people are taking creatine just for the day-to-day brain clarity benefits that they get. Someone on our staff, I don't know if he would want us sharing this, but he takes like 20 grams of creatine every single day, 4 scoops. He says that his mental clarity is just like off the charts. Thinking has improved. And he comes in some days and he's like, I forgot to take my creatine today. The whole day shot.
Oh, man.
Placebo effect is strong.
Should we move on?
Let's do it.
To zone 2 training. So this is something that I think is more talked about now, the different zones of your heart rate. And this is really something that helps to build cardiovascular resilience. It can increase the mitochondria in your muscles, your capacity to recover. And I think the reason why zone 2 training is really good for people is because it doesn't have to be super intense. So you're less likely to get injured. It's easier to fit it in. So this could be like weighted walking, a light jog, biking. And it's often things that can be really enjoyable, hiking. And so it's easier for people to put in. You could also probably put in, depending on the intensity that you play pickleball, where it's like you might have little bursts, but like, you're kind of just like keeping your heart rate elevated, but you could still have a conversation. And so I would say zone 2 training is really great for everyone to just have as like a baseline. And that's just kind of baseline activity level. So I would aim for, what's recommended is 150 minutes per week. And then I would say you can, habit stack that with using that time to be outside, to get sunlight. And it often should be something that you want to pick something that's enjoyable so that you're going to do it. If you hate the thing, like don't do the thing, because otherwise you're not going to, keep it up. Just kind of like with eating. If you absolutely hate the foods that you're eating, like you're probably not going to eat them long term.
Yep.
Same thing with exercise. Like pick something that you love that's going to be, life-giving and also has some health benefits. The beautiful thing about this too is that you can often do this like with your kids. So like we'll take our kids on bike rides, we'll take our kids on hikes, walks, and it's something that can be done in community, which I really love as well.
So zone 2 by definition is 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. So if your max heart rate is, let's say 200 for super easy math, this would be 120 to 140 beats per minute. Now 200 is very high. Most people are quite a bit lower than that. So you can adjust that math to match. The best way to track this is with a heart rate monitor. Most people have heart rate on their Apple Watch, although I've found the Apple Watches are notoriously bad at giving reliable heart rate numbers. Like I will actually measure people's heart rate via their radial or their wrist pulse and count, and it's often way higher than what the Apple thing reports. So
interesting.
The gold standard is a chest strap heart rate monitor. My Garmin Watch also does a pretty darn good job. I've compared it to the chest strap of tracking heart rate. The Oura Ring, I think, under-reports heart rate slightly comparatively, especially when you exercise. Like, all of them work fine for when you're not moving or when you're sleeping, but when you start moving around, you need something that's wet and in contact with your body, and the closer to your heart, the better, which is why the chest strap works so well.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. There was this interesting study that was done on people who had been like ski racers and competitive ski racers just in general. So some of them had been in the Olympics, and that was like in the 40s and 50s. And when they did this research study, they were in their 80s and 90s, which is crazy. And so they basically got to take these people's VO2 max, and essentially they saw that these people had like the VO2 max of people in their like mid 30s to mid 40s. And they had just continued to ski their whole life. Like, they had done the competitive thing when they were younger, and then they just continued to do like recreational skiing.
Like downhill skiing? Or is it
downhill
cross-country?
skiing.
Oh, cool.
Yep. And it was, mostly zone 2. And they found, their VO2 maxes were like excellent, even at 80 and 90, which just showed signs of really healthy hearts. Whereas a lot of the people in the 80s and 90s in America were just barely at the threshold of like what they needed to be at to live independently, to like be able to get up and down out of a chair, that they weren't at a super high fall risk. And a lot of that was determined by their VO2 max. And so I just thought that was interesting, because it's like, I think most people, like if you ask them, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they don't want to end up in, assisted living or a nursing home. Like, I don't think anyone's like, that's what I want to do when I get into my 80s or 90s. And unfortunately, they get there a lot of times because they can't live on their own, and either their family can't take care of them full time, or, whatever the circumstances may be. And so, this is one of the best things that you can do to keep your VO2 max higher and keep you independent longer. And so I think like the more, independence that you keep, and the more that you are active, the longer you can maintain that independence.
Nice. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is weighted walking or rucking. So this is certainly becoming trendy. I live in Glendora. I'm seeing people walking around with weighted vests. I even see people with rucksacks these days walking around. Again, there's another great YouTube video on how if you see people walking around with a weighted vest, it means you live in a nice neighborhood. And if you don't, it just means your neighborhood hasn't caught up yet. And you could be the person to start that. It'll increase your house value in your town. Joking. But all that aside, we love weighted walking for its benefits on resilience. It makes you a tougher, heartier version of yourself. It's also fantastic low-level exercise. It's a great way to challenge your cardiovascular system without the rigors of running. So when you run, every single step you take or stride you take, you put 8 times the amount of your body weight in force through your joints with every single step. When you ruck, or when you walk, it's more like 3x. So even with the added weight of the rucksack, you're nowhere near that 8x multiplier on force getting put through your body. So it's a much lower impact way to train your cardiovascular system and train your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it really just allows you to take the, just a walk that you might do for 20, 30 minutes, and it gets your heart rate a little bit higher, and it's just a little bit more effective. Again, this can't take the place of strength training.
Yep.
You still need to strength train. There's still not enough research on if it really helps, bone density long term. However, I think anything else, it can only help just a little bit. It might not be massive, but I think it does help there. And then it also just helps you get your heart rate up, and, just makes you more resilient and tougher.
So it may not help with bone density, but via the bones, it may help with long-term weight loss. So we have these things within our bones called osteoblasts and osteoclasts. So one builds up bone, one leads to breakdown of bone to put nutrients back in the system. And this delicate balance between buildup and breakdown is actually part of the weight loss process. And when our body senses that we have less weight in our system, like when we lose weight, it will actually communicate via the bones to our metabolism to decrease. Now, research shows that if you wear a weighted vest for part of the day, you can actually offset this so your body still thinks that you are heavier. So there was a research study done where they had folks wear a weighted vest during a caloric restriction diet, and another group not wear a weighted vest. They had the same amount of walking. And at the end of the study, both groups had lost about the same amount of weight. A year later, 2 years later, the weighted vest group was on average 11 pounds lighter than the non-weighted vest group.
That's really interesting.
Even though all other factors were the same. So it seems like there's something about just wearing weight that cues, and they hadn't done the weighted vest thing for a couple years. They'd just done it while they were losing weight. So they almost like they trick their body into thinking that it still weighed more. So it's a great way to lean out. If that's your goal, is to lose body fat. It's a great way to do it without losing muscle at the same time. So I would highly recommend it.
And I would just ramp up to it. Don't just like start walking all of a sudden all day with a weighted vest or backpack. I think just, start with 30 minutes a couple times a week. Start with a lighter vest so it's not too much on your feet, your knees, your hips, and then slowly start to increase that weight as your body adapts, just like everything else. Like if you go too much too soon, your body sometimes rejects that and you're just more likely to get injured.
All right, let's go to blood work. So one of the trends that I've noticed recently is people getting their own blood work and kind of taking their health into their own hands. So companies like Function Health, companies like Gojevity, where you can actually order blood work, walk into LabCorp or Quest, get the test done, and then you actually get sent this detailed readout of your blood chemistry. And you can see based on their recommendations which supplements you need to take, and you can start to alter your own blood work to progress towards normal values based on that. And I love this trend. I think that it's only going to get better with AI and advancing, more people getting into this. But I think the more that we can get people to try and take their preventative health into their own hands, the better. Because your health insurance is not designed to keep you healthy. It really should be called sick insurance. When you if you were to, God forbid, get in a car crash or some other sort of accident, that's when you want health insurance to cover your butt for the surgeries you may need or things like that. Or if you do need surgery someday to replace a knee, yeah, you want your health insurance to cover that. But far too many Americans rely on their health insurance to keep them healthy. And I think that's a major mistake because it's just not that good at it. And if you're going to rely on something, even if it's paid for, that doesn't accomplish the goal, you're wasting this one life that you have, this one body that you have. I shouldn't say wasting, but you're not you're not maximizing, certainly.
What's cool too about blood work now is that, it used to be like you just couldn't, if your doctor didn't order it, you couldn't get it. And, I found that where I've asked for, say, for example, like fasting insulin, and they're just like, nope, we only do fasting glucose. And I'm like, well, I would like my fasting insulin. Turns out that you need both to, figure out actually like what's going on with your blood sugar. And they just are like, nope, it's not in the CBC, which is a complete blood count that they just, order once a year. And they're often not, like Matt said, they're not there to maximize your health. They're really there to just kind of like try to catch anything that's really wrong. And even then, like, won't always catch things because it's not going to measure everything. And so what's beautiful now is that there's so many companies that you can go in and you can hand pick the things that you want measured. And, and often they'll send you like, an analysis of what's going on. And so you can really take your health into your own hands. And I think more people are starting to do that. And, you feel free to ask your doctor to order the blood work, but I have yet to see a doctor who has ordered all of the things that, we would recommend, at least not a, just conventional doctor. And same thing with me. I've tried to do that through just my conventional doctor through our insurance. And they're like, nope, can't do it. So
we did this really cool program with our clients where we read through the book Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means with them. We did like a book study, and we had them follow the program that she recommends called Levels. And so there's a couple components to that program. One is getting blood work. So you test 5 baseline blood markers. And then you go through, also wear a continuous glucose monitor, which I would put in this category as well.
Yep.
Tracking your glucose. And we should have put wearables in here too. Like basically just understanding what's going on under the hood better. Anyways, so you use the continuous glucose monitor, you get your blood work, and then you make changes, and then 3 months later you retest your blood work based on what you're learning about your metabolism in your body. And man, our clients had some pretty incredible results, like massive changes to blood work, big time weight loss, body fat loss, their energy, their mental clarity improved a ton.
It was cool too, because some of them, had been around for a while, and like they're super strong, they're pretty healthy, but they just like had a little bit of extra weight to lose. And it was interesting because a lot of them have pinpointed the glucose monitor to the thing that was like finally the key for them to actually losing weight. Because they said when they saw in real time how their blood sugar responded to the foods that they were eating, like that was enough feedback for them to like motivate them to make changes. Yep. And I found the same thing when we did the glucose monitors. It's like, oh, I don't want to see my blood sugar spike. Like I know that's horrible. I want to keep it level. I want my, resting glucose to be at a specific point. And so I think that that's a really powerful tool, and it's so easy now to get those things done. There's hundreds of companies that do it, and turns out you can do it now without a doctor's prescription, which is pretty cool.
Yep. Let's do one more. Heat and cold exposure. Again, this is one that you certainly want to layer on after the basics are solid. I don't think this should be the basis of your training, but there is a lot of research to show that some cold exposure each week and some hot exposure each week are very good things for us. And essentially how they work is that they disrupt homeostasis within our bodies. They provide a stressor that forces our body to adapt and increase some sort of adaptation to prepare to handle that stressor again. And because of that, we get benefits like increased immunity, increased brain function, like brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, is one of the hallmark signs that you're not going to get dementia. I believe both cold and heat increase BDNF in the body. And so we have a cold plunge. We try to go in there just about every night for 2 minutes. We keep ours at what temperature?
I think it's like 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. I always forget because I have to convert it. It's in Celsius right now.
It's definitely not warmer than 50.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 50.
Yeah.
And then we also have a hot tub that we go in, and we're considering getting a sauna. There's all kind of research to show that sauna is a really, really powerful way to enhance longevity, to improve the immune system, and then also to increase cardiovascular function. What have you learned about sauna and cold?
For women, sauna is actually better than cold plunging, specifically because of the heat shock proteins that happen are upregulated, and it can be a really good thing to do right after you work out. And it can also give you some of the cardiovascular benefits of just like the sweating, increased heart rate. And so again, it's not like in place of, it's in addition to, and I think it's supposed to be like anywhere from, I'd have to look again at the research article I read on it, but it's like somewhere between like 40 to 60 minutes of high heat sauna. Turns out infrared saunas can be good because of the red light, the infrared, but you're going to be better off at a high heat, like true sauna that can get up to like 180 to 220. And that's where you see the most benefits, and the most research is done. And so that's what I'm going for. I really want a high heat sauna.
Okay, noted.
Yep. Christmas.
So
I would say cold, you just don't want it to be too cold for women. That's why we've kept it a little bit higher. It turns out that our bodies don't respond as well, our hormones, when it's too cold because of just like how much it shocks our body. And so we do well with cold, but we actually do better with heat. So I'm happy about that because I like the heat better than I like the cold, but I like both. And I think that the cold plunge, I have noticed, like, I think we sleep better when we do the cold plunge. I've noticed a difference in my recovery, especially after like runs. I will be like, oh my gosh, my legs and my knees and my feet are just like cooked, and I'll get in the cold plunge and I'll like wake up and won't notice them at all the next day. So nice. I do think that it plays a big role in recovery.
Yep.
Cool. Question time?
With a question?
Oh, yeah. Yep. You ready for yours?
Yep.
If you were a piece of gym equipment, what would you be and why? Please don't say an adductor machine.
I didn't think of that.
Oh.
Wow. A piece of gym equipment.
Yeah.
Dang. I'd be a barbell.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I'd be a barbell.
Why?
Just versatile, classic,
Hardy.
rugged good looks.
Long,
strong
lean, and
jawline.
slender.
Yeah. No, not that. No. Yeah, I'd be a barbell.
I would hope that you would answer that.
All right. Question for you. Which High Rocks event are you least looking forward to of all the different things in High Rocks?
Good question. Can I say the running?
You can. That's one of them.
Say the running. I think all of the, I mean, quite honestly, ski erg. Like I always say when we do our cardio days where we do 5 minutes of skiing for our clients, which I used to think was a long time. Turns out it's not that long, but it feels like a long time on the ski erg. That is probably just because it's more like cardiovascular, and that's I really like strength training. So like the sled push and pull, it's like, or the farmer's carries. Like I think those things, it's like, this is great. But but you know, I don't know. We'll see. I haven't done it. Also the broad jump burpees. I love burpees and I love jumping, but I think at that point in the race, because it's like closer to the end, when you've already run a lot, I think it'll be extra challenging. But I think that the running will be like my weakest part of the race for me, which is why I'm training the most in running, because I think the other ones, like I could do them today. The running I could do, I don't want my heart rate to be too high for too long and suffer through the whole thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening to the Strength for Life podcast. Like, subscribe, leave us a comment. We want to know what you guys want covered in future episodes. Love if you leave us a comment with suggestions. And until next time, I'm Dr. Matt.
And I'm Nicole Klingler.